All right, so I'm going to introduce our next special guest speaker. This is Jim Francis. Everybody say hi, Jim. Hi. I've known Jim for quite some time now. When you were working through a couple of the different companies you work at, this is this back end and then there's front end. Jim has been both a back end and front end guy, but he's been mostly lately back end guy behind the scenes. How many people have heard of Tony Robbins? Yeah, he's been working with other companies. How many people have heard of Charles Givens? Remember him? How many people heard of Russ Whitney? All those companies, Optionetics, all those different type of companies, all these back-end stuff. This is the mastermind guys behind, the dude behind the dude, the guy behind the guy. And now Jim and I have been communicating back and forth about doing some business opportunities. Russ Whitney, all those companies, Optionetics, all those different. Jim called me up a few months ago and said, I'm working for Peter Lowe now. We're doing their back-end real estate stuff. Do you want to help? Do you want to be a speaker in that? And I go, what do you mean? You mean the guy on the stage? He goes, yeah. I go, but you know I'm not a pitch man. Yeah. He goes, I can make you a pitch man.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. I go, all right, I'll give it a shot. So I've been working with that, and Jim was, it was kind enough to get me in that, and that's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it. We've been working together, and just the amazing amount of insight that Jim's going to share with you, being in this business for over 20 years now, of back end between the big seminars, little seminars, conventions, even infomercials, and the whole system of how it works. Would it be good to have the insider guy who knows all that stuff? How many people think that would be good information? Well, it's so good that Jim said there's only one condition that I'm going to speak. You can't record it. So this is special stuff. So take out a pen and write it down and don't tell anybody, because we're not recording it. So you can only get what he says right now. So pay careful attention. And stand up on your feet first and give a big round of applause to Jim Francis.
Thank you. Stay up while you're there. Something I normally do. So while you're standing up, stay up. My name is Jim Francis. My pleasure to be here. But before we get started, how many people are familiar with the concept of the left brain and the right brain? What's the left brain responsible for? Left brain. Right side of the body, it's analytical, it's the thinking part, isn't it? What's the right brain responsible for? More creative, more intuitive. It's the left side of the body, it's more feeling oriented. Do you think it's important when you're learning something new to know whether you're more left brain oriented or more right brain oriented? What do you think? It is, because some of us learn best through the big picture, and some of us learn best through the little details. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the big pictures. I'm also going to talk about the little details. And by the end of the session, you'll have learned some great strategies. So it is important to know whether you're more left brain oriented or more right brain oriented. Stanford came up with a test to show you whether you're more left brain oriented or more right brain oriented. It's a real simple test. What I need to do is take your hands, put them out here. Great way to meet people. Say hello. The count of three, what I want you to do is to bring your hands together and hold them there. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's do this again. Only this time when we do it again, what I want you to do is to hold your hands there no matter what I say. Okay? 1, 2, 3. See, Bill, I told you I'd get a standing ovation. Here's what Stanford found out. Here's what Stanford found out. If your left thumb is over your right thumb, if your left thumb is over your right thumb, you're more logical and, in fact, you're a thinker. I see some of you looking at the person next to you and go, man, this test is really messed up, right? Here's what Stanford also found out. If your right thumb is over your left thumb, if your right thumb is over your left thumb, that you're more feeling-oriented and, in fact, you're extremely sexy. One or two gentlemen out there making the switch, right? Now, Bill, when he takes this test, his thumbs are straight like that. You know what that means? He just thinks he's sexy. Have a seat. It's my pleasure to be here. When you think about speaker training and sales training from the stage or in a small group or a presentation, I really believe that there are a number of mechanics that you have to become a master of. And I've had the rare privilege in my life to work with what I call a number of mentors. In fact, I've spent over $81,000 on books and tapes and education to have the privilege to stand on stage. And I really do believe in the power of mentorship. How many people agree with me that mentorship or coaching can get you to success faster? Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And in my life, I've had some great mentors. People like Tony Robbins, Og Mandino, Ken Blanchard, Donald Moyne, Charles Givens, Robert Kiyosaki, before he wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, grew up listening, Ron LeGrand, the twins, all of those people have been mentors in my life and coached me. And as I did that, I actually got pretty good at it myself. In fact, I wrote a book called Sales Code, and Sales Code is really about how to take some of the strategies and skills and tools and start to apply them from stage. And they're not strategies and tips and schools or tools that people normally think about. There's kind of some unusual ones there. How many people would like to have a copy of that, by the way? Copy of the sales code book. I really believe if you take action, you should get rewarded. So, someone who takes action gets rewarded. Right? Now, do you think that if opportunity knocked once, it might knock a second time? Right? If it knocked once and it knocked twice, you think there might be a third opportunity for you to take action. What do you think? Yeah. Absolutely. So, I don't have a book, but I do have a set of audio cassettes that talk about 4 personality styles, sales, trading strategies. Some of you guys at the back are going, why did I pick a seat up front? Right? And literally, as I started to master some of those skills, I did it for myself first. Because I am a speaker, I'm a presenter, I do still continue to sell from stage. As I started to do that, I also got into the seminar business, worked for a number of those large companies that you mentioned. I've started literally several seminar companies that have been in the multi-million-dollar realm. Some of those are over $200 million a year nowadays. Canada, the UK, the US, all over the country. So I've got that kind of varied background. What I'd like to do today is to kind of share with you 12 strategies that can make you a better speaker, a better presenter, and more importantly, probably allow you to sell a lot from stage. How many people would like to learn that today? Okay, I'll tell you this. If you don't put up your hand, I'm not going to teach. So how many people would like to learn that today? Okay, good, great, thanks. Appreciate that. As I'm going through this session, I would like to give you a physical demonstration of how to sell, as well as a theoretical demonstration of how to sell. Is that okay? Because I think people learn best through seeing it, applying it, and using it. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'll start to do that as we go through the presentation. Just some notes. People who attend a workshop of yours are 3 times more likely to buy from you. 3 to 5 times more likely. That's a great opportunity for people. Unfortunately, for a lot of presenters, they get mixed up on the process of I'm a teacher versus I'm a salesperson. And the traditional mistake for most people when they're presenting from stage or in a workshop is they teach, and then what do? Try to sell their newsletter, try to sell their advanced product. And there is a distinction there that you've got to make, and that is, as you're presenting, can you indirectly sell?
Yes.
Yes, you can. There are tools and steps you can take to indirectly sell, not directly sell. So I'm going to share some of those strategies, because people are 3 times more likely to buy from you. And 2/3 of your income should come from your back-end sales. I had the pleasure of working with Jay Abraham and Ken Blanchard. And both of those individuals say that whatever your revenue stream is from a front-end presentation, from a front-end acquisition of a customer, you should have 2 to 3 times more revenue on the back end. And the back end is really where you can make a tremendous amount of money. So we want to spend some time in terms of learning those tools and tips and ideas. Right? The major mistake for most individuals is in business is they don't spend that time once they've acquired the customer to max out that revenue. So we want to try to max out that database, because databases are the most costly to get. Once we have them, then what we want to do is to start to use that database, start to use it effectively. In our business, we kind of do that in the seminar business based on dollars per head. So I want to kind of give you some rough ballparks as to what you should be looking at, and then compare it to what you're doing and seeing if oops, sorry. Give you some rough ballparks as to what you're doing so that you kind of get a ballpark of what you should be at. In a 60-minute, 90-minute presentation, typically in this kind of industry, you should earn between $100 and $200 a head. If you're not doing that kind of number, then you need to start working at your presentation and improving your presentation. In terms of the back-end side of the business, that means if you're doing like a 3-day workshop or a 2-day workshop or something like that, there are kind of ballparks as to how you should achieve or what you should achieve. In a 1-day presentation, you literally should do about $500 a head. In a 2-day presentation, you should do about $1,000 a head. And in a 3-day presentation, you should do about $1,500 a head or even more. And there are some groups out there that literally in a 3-day workshop are doing $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a head in a 3-day workshop. Now, for some people, they go, wait a second. I've been to those kind of seminars, they're all pitch. It doesn't have to be that way. In fact, there are a whole series of indirect tools you can use so that it doesn't come across as a major pitch, right? So we want to make sure we use some of those things. You don't have to be high pressure. It can be very subtle. And I call those the 11 commandments, and we'll talk about those in just a minute. Let me just give you an idea. What I want to do is I want to take 2 educational models that I use, 2 5 and 10-minute training pieces that I use to influence people in terms of the sales process. They're educational nature, so when people are sitting in the audience, they're going to say, well, these are strategies, these are tools that we learn in terms of wealth building. But I'll tell you right now that I've set them up really to do what? To sell. And they're set up, and you can do the exact same thing in your business. It'll look like you're training somebody, but you're really selling your product or your service. Does that make sense? Is everybody with me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let me kind of give you a demonstration. I'm going to give you 2 demonstrations. I teach something called the wealth wheel, and I don't care whether I'm doing this in the stock market, or I'm doing this in real estate, or I'm doing this for a small business presentation. I use this wealth wheel as the foundation to lay some ideas, some strategies that I know later on will help me in terms of my sales process. I also teach something called the 11 Commandments of M2. I had the rare privilege in my lifetime to spend time with 50-plus millionaires. As I spent that time with the 50-plus millionaires, I learned some strategies and techniques and characteristics that they have that other people do not have. Might it be useful for you to learn some of those strategies and techniques? Yeah, it might be. Now, as I teach that, I pretty much can guarantee that you'll see the reference to selling. And as I do these 2 sections, what I'm going to encourage you is not only to listen to the strategies and information, but watch what I'm doing on stage. Watch where I'm standing, watch what gestures I'm using, listen to the words that I'm saying, because you'll hear some very specific phrases that come out of me. Then what I'd like to do is to take those 2 sections and to kind of break them down so to show you what I was doing. Would that be a good lesson for you?
Yeah.
Okay, great, cool. So let's pretend for a second that I am going to sell real estate. I'm going to sell real estate. I'm going to sell some advanced training when it comes to real estate. I'm going to try to sell a mentorship program. I'm going to try to sell a coaching program. I'm maybe try to sell a distressed advanced training program. I maybe talk about commercial real estate or something like that. And I'm just going to go into the realm of being that instructor for a second, and then I'll kind of break and come out and we'll break it up. So let's start. Hi, my name is Jim Francis. I had the rare privilege in my time to spend time with 50-plus millionaires. In fact, I had individuals like Robert Kiyosaki. Everybody know who Robert is?
Yep.
Robert Kiyosaki is one of the leading wealth experts. Would you agree with me?
Yep.
Is he one of the leading wealth experts? Yeah, he is, isn't he? So when I was spending time with Robert, and I promoted him before he wrote the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So, and as I was talking to him about his strategies, his main theme is passive income, isn't it? That's one way to get to wealth, but there actually are about 6 areas that you can get to wealth. So here's what I want you to do. Find a page someplace, a blank page, a completely blank page. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to draw a big circle on the page. And then once you've drawn that big circle on the page, what I want you to do is to cut it up into 6 separate sections. Can you do that for me now? All right. When you're thinking about this as the wealth wheel, there are very specific strategies to becoming wealthy. In fact, I know that there are 6 major strategies with respect to that. So let's take a look at that first quadrant. The first quadrant we want to take a look at is really, when we're focusing on wealth, we want to focus on cash flow. So what I want you to do is in that quadrant, write cash flow. Cash flow. Now, I really believe in the 40-40-20 plan to building wealth, and cash flow is an important element of that. And really, when we're talking about over the next 3 days, wealth building in terms of real estate, there are 3 strategies or 4 strategies you must adopt in cash flow to be successful. In fact, if you don't have these strategies, you're going to be a major failure. Okay, so you've got to have these strategies. Would you guys like to know what the strategies are? Okay, great. Here's the other. The first strategy, one of the first strategies, is rentals. We've got to focus on rental income, which means we've got to be pretty good at understanding, multifamilies and rentals and rental community. The next is we have to focus on lease option strategies. Lease option strategies. The next area that we want to focus on is discount mortgages. We want to learn the business of discount mortgages. If we learn the business of discount mortgages, we'll be very good at building cash flow long term. How many people want to have cash flow long term? Okay, great. The next area we want to focus in terms of cash flow strategy is flips. Okay, so we want to have the ability to flip property. Now, there's a challenge with doing flips because if you do a flip, and I've done my share of flips, meaning you buy that ugly property, that ugly greenhouse, and you fix it up, put some sweat equity into it. Maybe you bought it for $50,000, you put 20 into it, and you sell it on for $100. What's the challenge with that? I've got to do it again. So what are you really doing? Yeah, you're working for a living. Is working for a living the way to get to success? No, it is. In fact, one of the things I want to get to is passive income. So it can be good cash flow. However, you have to realize that it's a job, right? And a job is something we probably don't want. We want to have passive income. We want to have regular cash flow. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, great. So that's one of the areas we're going to focus on. I'd suggest probably about 40% of your portfolio needs to be in that area. The next major area that we have to focus on is asset appreciation, growth. Okay, in terms of asset appreciation, the strategies we have to focus on for our long-term wealth are really the buy and hold strategy. So we want to focus on the buy and hold strategy. And we want to focus on forced appreciation. Everybody understand what forced appreciation is? Forced appreciation is that ugly property, right? It's that buying a property, fixing up with some sweat equity, and then selling it on, and we are forcing the value or forcing the appreciation of the property to go up. Did you know that there are two other types of forced appreciation? There are. Would you like to learn them? Well, I really can't go over all of them at the moment, but I want you to write these down beside forced appreciation. The other two types of forced appreciation are marketing appreciation related to real estate, and phased appreciation relating to real estate. And you want to make sure you learn about those things. All right, we'll talk about them a little bit later. The third major area that we want to focus on is big hits. Now, the challenge for most real estate investors is that here's somebody that made $100,000 very quickly, and they go out and invest all of their money to do that $100,000 deal, and what happens to them? They fail, right? They lose their money. Okay, and that's not something you want to do, right? It's okay to get big hits, but should you really go out and try to get them immediately? I think the answer is no. It kind of reminds me of people who like to fish for a living or they go hunting for the whale. So if they get that little dinghy and they take that harpoon and they go out to fight with the whale, what can happen to them? They can get killed, they get eaten, right? They could get, totally killed, right? So you might not want to do that strategy. In fact, the better strategy is to wait for the whale to come into you. Does that make sense to everybody? Yep. Okay, so one of the things we don't want to do is focus on big hits immediately, but let them come to us. When we talk about big hits, what I'm talking about specifically is you want to spend time and learn strategies on foreclosure strategies. We want to spend time on REOs and wholesale buying, volume buying. So those are the areas long-term that will make us wealthy. Those are the areas that we want to invest our time and our effort long-term to build wealth. Because a big hit can be $50, $100, $200,000. Does that make sense to you? Yep. Okay, good. The next major area we need to focus on is asset appreciation. Or leverage, sorry. Leverage is a tool for success. So I found in my lifetime, I used to go out there and do all the things like look for property and go to the MLS listings and visit with realtors and have sourcing agents and those kinds of things. But I was spending a lot of time searching for property myself. Is that the best use of my time? No, it's not. The better uses of my time would be able to get somebody to do that for me, wouldn't it? Like getting a sourcing agent, right? When you're learning something new, you can learn through books and tapes and education, but quite often aren't you better to learn from somebody who's done it in the past? Somebody who's done it in the past and has been successful? If you learn from that person, do you get to success faster? What do you think? You do. So isn't it good to have a good coach or a good mentor? Yeah, it really is. So we need to really think about, who's going to be our coach? Who's going to be our mentor? Who's going to be that individual that's going to do it for you? Does that make sense to you? Okay, yeah. So we want to focus on, making our money make money. We want to make sure that we're making our time make money, but we also want to make sure that we have a good coach, a good mentor on our team. In fact, I would suggest to you that as I'm talking, you want to start creating your action plan. And as you're creating your action plan, you might go to the back of your book and you might write an action item is to find a good mentor, right? Next major area is asset appreciation or asset planning. We want to make sure that we spend time on asset planning because 1/3, one-half your wealth is going to come from asset planning, right? So we want to make sure we're focusing on land trusts, corporations, and structures, right? If you're not spending that money, you do want to spend that money. What happens for most investors is they go out there, buy the first property, the second property, and then they start thinking about asset protection, using land trusts or losing structures. Is that the right way to do it? No, it isn't it? What's the right way to do it? Spend the money up front to get that done so you don't have the liability and the issues. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay? The next major area is education, and I really believe in the real estate business that you have to spend 6 months to a year to increase your education. I mean, the reason I'm standing here is because I spent $81,000 on books, tapes, and education. How many people agree that education, when you learn, you earn? Right? And if you learn more, you earn more. Right? So we want to make sure we focus on that. In my life, I had the rare privilege of spending time with 11 or 50-plus millionaires that came up with 11 characteristics of what made them successful. Would you like to learn that? Yeah. Okay, great. So here they are. You know, the individuals I spent time with, Tony Robbins, Art Bendino, Charles Gibbons, all those different folks, they're all kind of have their books out there, and you can certainly learn from that best if you learn from them directly rather than separate. They came up with 11, I came up with 11 major characteristics of these folks. So let me share with you what those 11 characteristics are. The first is they have big dreams. When you think about it, you know, what's the dream for most Americans nowadays? Say, have a job, isn't it? That's what I call the 40-40-40 plan. Right? What does the 40-40-40 plan really mean? You work 40 years, 40 hours a week, only to take a 40% pay cut. That's the wrong plan, guys. Man, a job does not make you a multimillionaire, generally speaking. Would you agree with me? You've got to have a better plan than that. So if that's your plan right now, that's a great way to get some cash flow. But it's not the way to become what I call M2 status, which is a multimillionaire and earn over $250,000 a year and literally have $2 million in cash. How many people want that kind of goal, by the way? Okay, if you want that kind of goal, is the job the right way to do it? No, it's not. We've got to start focusing on changing our viewpoint. And in fact, as part of interviewing the millionaires, I came up with some other strategies that made them successful. So for one of them was breaking outside their comfort zone. Doing something new, doing something different, changing the way they looked at things. So we want to make sure we change the way we look at things. Now normally I do an exercise here, just a side note. Okay. The next area is that we take a look at working what? Smarter, not harder. Right? And I really believe that you can earn $250,000 a year, be at that M2 status, by working only 16 hours a week. How many people want to work 16 hours a week and make $2 million? Okay, good. Great. The fourth area, or fourth characteristic, strategy I notice of these guys, is they don't let their emotions rule their decision making. They don't let their emotions rule their decision making. What does that really mean? Well, sometimes when you're making an important financial decision, can you get wrapped up too much in the emotion? Sometimes when you're making an important financial decision, can you get too wrapped up in the numbers? What do you think? Analyzing it to death. How many people have had an opportunity, they analyzed it to death, and they lost the opportunity? Does that happen? It does. So you've got to have the right balance of the left brain and the right brain, right? Really what happens for a lot of people is they get afraid, right? They get afraid. It kind of reminds me of, you know, one of my mentors, a guy named Tony Robbins. Everybody know who he is? Okay. Anybody done a fire walk with Tony Robbins? If you've done a fire walk with Tony Robbins and you're standing there in front of those hot burning coals and you don't have your shoes on, your pants are rolled up, do you think the fact that the heat, which is 2,000 degrees, it's hot burning on your legs, you think there might be an element of fear there? What do you think? Yeah, there is, and fear really holds people back from success. Do you know there's a trick to fire walking? There is. I mean, he spends 8 hours teaching you this, but it's really a 10-second trick. You want the 10-second trick? How many people would like to have the 10-second trick? How many people really don't care? That's okay. Stay with me. Right? Here's the 10-second trick. Here's the 10-second trick, guys. See, the trick to fire walking is real easy, and it's the trick to everything in life, by the way. See, if I can get you motivated to take that first step, you're very motivated to take the rest. You guys laugh. Isn't that like life, though? See, if I can get you motivated to take that first step in real estate investing, to take that first step forward, and you're on the path, do you think that you'll do the rest? Yeah, it's one of the reasons, for example, people who go to advanced training or go to mentorship are so successful, because they spend that extra money, now they're on the path. Does that make sense to you? Yeah, it does. It makes enormous sense. What does it make? It makes dollars, right? It makes dollars, right? So we want to take the fear out of emotions. We want to take the fear out of emotions. If it makes sense, if there's a return on investment, should we just simply take action? Yeah, we should. In fact, one of the major strategies of all of the 11 that I learned from these 50-plus millionaires, one of the major strategies was something I called the quick and the dead. The quick and the dead. So it's a real simple strategy, and the best way I can do this is to kind of demonstrate it for you. So let me give you a demonstration of the quick and the dead. Who here will give me $10 for this 20? I'm not going to come and give it to you. You've got to take some action. Very good. Very good. All right? What kind of return on investment was that?
100%.
That was 100% return on investment. Now, if you get 100% return on investment, should you take action? What do you think?
Yes.
Absolutely you should take action, shouldn't you? Should you worry about it? I mean, if it makes financial sense, should you just take action? Yeah, you shouldn't be thinking about, well, I'm too far away, or, you know, I don't have the money, or you should just take action. If you're going to get 100% return, you should take action, shouldn't you? Right? If opportunity knocked once, do you think it might knock a second time? And some of you might even want to get prepared for this. Who'll give me 5 for this 10? Who'll give me a 5? I'm not going to come to you. You're going to. Very good. Right? He grabbed it. Man, if you get 100% return on investment, should you just grab it? Should you just go for it? Yeah, you should, shouldn't you? I mean, doesn't that make sense? See, the problem with most Americans, most Canadians, most people in the UK is they're too busy evaluating, they're too busy thinking about it, and they miss the opportunity. Man, if you're going to get that opportunity, you should take action. Now, if opportunity knocked once, and it knocked twice, it knocks it 3 times, who'll give me $1 for this 5? Very good. I also believe, guys, listen, when you take action, what else should you get?
Reward.
You should get a reward, shouldn't you? Yep. So if you take action, shouldn't you get a bonus? Sure. Okay, so if you took action, you should get a bonus. So here's 3 hours of audio cassettes on negotiating strategies and also a great motivational quote set. Now, if opportunity knocked once, it knocked twice, and it knocked the 3rd time, who wants $1? Who wants $1? That's good. That's yours. Great. By the way, if you took action, guys, when you take action, should you get the bonus? So shouldn't you get a bonus? Yeah, absolutely. So let me give you 365 motivational quote sayings and also 3 hours of negotiation strategies and selling techniques. Question for you: How much return on investment did he get? There was 100% return, 100% returns, 500% return. What did he get? Infinite return. Well, you know what an infinite return is? That's no money down investing. That's where you don't put up any cash and you get that kind of cash flow back. Even better if you get paid to buy. Can you get paid to buy? Can you? Yeah, absolutely. How many people here, besides me, have done a cash back? Okay, so you can get paid to buy. So is it okay to buy?
Yes.
It is, isn't it? Right? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Okay. We get out of character.
Did you guys catch a lot of what was happening there? Okay, so what kinds of things was I doing as I was presenting? Anchoring. So anchoring is a technique or a strategy. And I would actually kind of like to share with you what an anchor is, and then kind of show you how I use the stage to anchor. Did you see me do stuff like this? And stuff like this? That is an anchor on the stage. When I said somebody's successful, what did I do? I gestured to myself. Okay? So that's called an anchoring technique. Very subliminal, very indirect, but people do get the message. Okay, what are the things that you see in here? Okay, so when I was talking about 100% return on investment, and you shouldn't think about it, you should take action. When I said action, what did I do? I pointed to the sales team, right? In fact, normally I would have my bonuses, the stuff that I'm going to give as bonuses for there, where? To get them to do what? Be conditioned to do what? Go to the back. Does that make sense to you? Okay, so there are a whole series of subliminal things that you can use to influence people to take action. Now, some of you are going to say, well, Jim, you know what? That's very manipulative. And the answer to that is, yes, it is. Okay? Now, if you have an issue with that, it usually falls that you're winning at their expense, right? Man, I know my product's a good product. I know that 80% of people that attend workshops, go to advanced training are successful because they've taken that first step. So do I believe in my product? Not only do I believe in my product, I know it works, and it works successfully for them because 80% are successful. So is that a win-win relationship? It is, right? So I did that kind of demonstration to kind of give you some of the tool sets. Now, would you guys like to learn some of the specific tool sets? Okay, so let's go over a couple of strategies in the next hour or so that can help you improve your game in terms of performance, right? Take mega notes. By the way, there is a section in there that's called sales code. Sales code is kind of towards the back. Turn to that section. There's a lot of handouts that I normally would have at the back, but they're in that manual as well. One of the greatest mistakes that people make as a presenter and as a teacher, as an instructor in workshops and sessions like that is they have a belief system that is, first of all, that, I'm here to teach and that's all I'm here to do. If you're in business, is your job just to teach? No, it's to deliver a good quality product, but all businesses must be successful, and therefore it is your obligation as an owner to do what? To upsell, to market, to do more sales. So one of the first things I want to suggest to you is, if you are teaching in workshops, don't just teach and then at the last 10 minutes present your product and service. It doesn't work. If you do that, you will not be as successful as if as you're doing your presentation, you influence them to buy. So the first step is make sure that what I call always be closing. The ABCs are always be closing. You want to make sure you're always be closing. It is not just your job to teach, it's your job to sell. And in fact, if you do have that mental philosophy, I'd suggest to you that needs to change a little bit. Because it's your obligation as a professional business person to sell more of your products and services. So we always want to be closing. We want to do the ABCs, always be closing. Now, how do we do that in terms of our presentation? Most of us will be doing PowerPoint or overheads. We want to use those PowerPoints or overheads to influence people over a period of time. By the end of the 90 minutes, by Sunday of the 3-day workshop, we want to influence those people. So here's a couple of things you might want to do. First of all, in my introduction, did I talk about the fact that I worked for a Fortune 500 company for 8.5 years, that I own a substantial real estate portfolio, that I have multiple businesses in the UK, Canada, and the US? Did I mention any of those things? No. What did I talk about? I spent $81,000 on what?
Education.
Books, tapes, and education, and I had a great coup. Mentor. Now, is that an indirect way of saying to them it's okay to spend $80,000 on books, tapes, and education, and that you need to have a great mentor? Is that different than the typical introduction where most people in their introduction are talking about themselves? They're going to find out about me in the 2 hours. They're going to find out about me in the 1 day or the 2 day or the 3 day anyway. I do want to create some social proof, which is the part about the 50-plus millionaires. But the thing I want to do is right from the get-go, I want to introduce my products and services. See, most people are very afraid to do that. And I suggest to you within the first 2 or 3 minutes, they should know that you have other products and services that are available. It doesn't have to be a big pitch, but you want to make sure that it's up front so that there are no surprises. That makes sense to everybody. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're not concentrating on ourselves, we're concentrating on changing our script, our presentation to influence people or say it's okay to buy other stuff. Right? Yep. One of the things you want to do is you want to take each PowerPoint presentation, and I have a philosophy that goes something like 45 seconds of content, 15 seconds of moving them closer to action. 45 seconds of content, which means good solid strategy, good solid information, good techniques, good value for what they've paid, and then 15 seconds of action items. Now, literally, when I'm building a presentation for the first time, I go through my PowerPoint presentation and I do the content. So I get all the content down. Then what I do is I print it out on those 3 slides to a page if you're using PowerPoint. Everybody know that program? Yep. 3 slides to a page. It's the output. And then what I start to do is, okay, on this slide, I'm doing 45 seconds of content. What's my 15 seconds of influence? What's my 15 seconds of action that's going to bring them closer to the sale? Now, I guarantee that if you start to think that way, that'll start to come into your language, to come into your presentation, and it'll start to move them towards it. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, so you want to start planning your hooks. And most people don't plan their sales hooks. What they do is totally focus on sales on the content side, and then when they get to their sales presentation, they do 15 minutes of sales presentation. Okay, if you do that, that's the wrong strategy. And when I say that, I'm talking, I've trained over 200 plus professional speakers in the seminar business. Some of you might have seen some of those folks, right? If you've seen those folks, this is one of the major messages I do with them, to get that 15 seconds every minute. And it doesn't have to be direct. It can be something very subtle. And then what I do is I start to say, okay, maybe I want to take it a little step further. Geez, I want to plan my introduction, what my sales piece is, but then start thinking about some of the other elements. Where do I want to do my stage anchors? Where do I want to create a joke? Where do I want to get a conditioning process where they go to the bag? Where do I get to think about bonuses? Okay, a little more formal. In fact, I actually created an Excel spreadsheet that has this kind of format. Would you guys like to have it? How many people would like to have that? I hadn't planned on giving it to you, but how many people would really like to have that? Okay, it's actually in your book. Right? Okay. By the way, that is something I'm going to teach you in a second. It is building reciprocation where you're going, geez, I really want that, right?